how do we avoid disaster in building a sales team? And more importantly, how do we create predictable daily sales in your business? Now, in the last episode of the Kelly Roach Show, we really dug into kind of the 4 or 5 things that are going to be crucial from just an environment perspective, putting people in a position to succeed. And I say this all the time. This is one of the most important things we talk about in our Legacy Leaders Mastermind all the time, which is that 85% or more of your employees' success comes down to environment and leadership. Only 15% or less of their success is them as an individual performer. And if you think about it, this is so crucial because even if someone is uber talented, if they come into a disastrous environment that's total chaos with poor leadership, it is going to be almost impossible for them to succeed. On the flip side, listen up. If you have a B player that comes in that's not very experienced, that's not very sophisticated, that has very little skills, but you have an incredibly systematic approach to producing results, you are going to be able to duplicate, multiply, and scale. And when studying business models, one of the things that you'll find over and over again is that businesses that have really high levels of success many times are very good at lowering the bar for how unique or sophisticated the employee needs to be in order to succeed in that environment. Because if an employee needs to be a rocket scientist in order to succeed, chances are it's going to be very difficult for you to duplicate and multiply. If you want to create scale in your organization, there first has to be a process. That process needs to be optimized, and then that process needs to be set up in a way that it can be duplicated and multiplied to create leverage. What is leverage? It's your ability to get results in your organization over and over again with less effort, right? So the only way you can create results over and over again and multiply those results with less effort and not having to hire dozens and dozens of people to do a task is if your systems and processes get better. Now, we've begun the conversation about how so many people hire a sales rep, big hopes, big dreams, and they just plug them into an environment and a mispositioned process or an undefined process. And because of that, it creates very sporadic and unpredictable results, right? And one of the biggest things that small businesses struggle with is they want to create daily sales. And a lot of individuals in particular that learn how to launch in their businesses, for example, they finally figure out how to get sales and launch, and then they can't for the life of them figure out how to get sales in between launch. Well, why is that? Because there is not a set process that is being followed on a daily basis with the leads that you generate to move them through the know, like, trust, and buy process. Now, we begun the conversation on the last episode of the show talking about the importance of making sure that you have a repeatable offer, making sure that you have a system that people are being taken through, making sure you have specific assets that people are going to consume before they get on a phone call, understanding the difference between a connect call and a consultation call, and the things that you need to do in order to ensure that you're making sales consistently, like having metrics that are followed every single day in your organization in order to produce a predictable result. And I say this time and time again, and I'm here to remind you again today, your business is a machine. And what you put into the machine is what you are going to get out of the machine. If you are not consistent in the metrics that people are being managed and held accountable to, you are not going to be consistent in the output of your machine. So today I want to talk about sales management and sales leadership and what does it take to set a sales team up for success. Now, number one, if you are thinking about bringing on a sales rep or you want to significantly improve the sales process in your organization, the first thing that you have to understand is generating sales is literally what keeps the light on. Generating sales is what keeps you in business. And so many CEOs and so many leaders abdicate their power in the most important area of the business. And then they're frustrated and they're constantly stressed out because these things aren't happening. So the first thing that you have to understand is if your business is not producing sales every single day, you probably need to be far more involved in the sales management of your organization than you are today until you ensure that the right things are happening and producing a result consistently. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that number one, making sure that the metrics that are being put into the business are in fact going to produce the output that you want in the business. I always say the math has to math. And in most companies that tell me they struggle with sales, I can look at the math and in 3 seconds or less, I can tell them this math doesn't add up. There was no way you were ever going to have success on a daily basis with this. And if you don't change this, nothing's going to change. But the problem is that most business leaders and most CEOs want to see the sales results change, but they don't want to create a culture change in their company. And your ability to drive daily sales is about culture. The culture of the organization needs to be rallied around the idea that although not everyone is a sales rep in the company, everyone is responsible for sales in the company. Meaning that the daily focus of the organization is serving your customers and getting new ones. Those are the only two core functions of any business at any given time. Serving your current customers and getting new ones. And so that means that whether someone is in operations, service delivery, finance, customer support, marketing, all of those functions are still sales generating organisms. They are still focused, they are still responsible and accountable for contributing to sales. Your finance department does collections. Your operational department makes sure there's coverage of the past clients, the leads, make sure that the behavioral analytics are in place, pushes the list to people, making sure that all things are functioning correctly. Your marketing team is generating leads, right? Your sales team is closing new prospects. Your client transformation team is responsible for results, for renewals, for referrals, for reactivations, right? Every department of the company is responsible and accountable for sales. And if that culture shift does not happen at the top of the organization where you live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep it, and it's part of the conversation every day, not for days, not for weeks, not for months, but for years, it simply won't happen. It has to be cultural, it has to be constant, and it has to be part of the overall thread of the way that the organization functions in both good times and in bad. One of the biggest mistakes I see CEOs make constantly that absolutely crushes the morale of their company and destroys their sales is that they only talk about the numbers when things are going poorly. They only talk about lack of sales when there's a lack of sales. They only investigate or inspect what they expect when things are going wrong. And what does that mean? It means that things are going to continue to go wrong. It means that things are going to continue to be inconsistent. It means that it's going to panic the entire organization when you're suddenly talking about the numbers. Whereas in a healthy organization, in a well-run organization, you are talking about the numbers every single day. Because everyone is expected to be a thinking business person, a mature adult that understands that a business does not continue to be in business unless the business closes business. And so if that is not a part of that cultural conversation every single day, it simply won't work. And guess what? There will be people that come into your organization that absolutely hate this. There will be people that will hate you as a CEO for talking about this. There will be people that absolutely bounce right back out of your organization and say it's the worst job they ever had and it was high pressure and it was high stress and this and this and this, and they'll have a whole story to tell about you. But guess what? Your job is not to be liked. Your job is to be respected. Your job is not to do what makes people feel cushy and comfortable and fluffy in the moment. Your job is to protect people's jobs. And this is what a lot of employees don't understand. Your job is to keep the business in business. Your job is to be able to keep paying their paycheck. And in order to be able to do both of those things, keep the business in business, keep paying their paycheck, turn a profit so that you are sustainable long-term, you have to discuss the numbers every day. And it can be done in a positive, constructive, and even fun and enjoyable way where you're celebrating wins. But if you don't make that commitment to making it an everyday thing and you continue to make it something that is only when things are going poorly, you're going to continue to do poorly and you're going to keep having more and more of those conversations that aren't fun for anyone. Okay. So we know that it's important culturally that the entire organization is pointed in the direction of daily sales. We know that it's important that if you're bringing in a sales team, that they're set up for success, that there's a process, that there's metrics, that there is leads for them to follow up on, and that they are in an environment where there's set assets to lead people through that process to the close. But what are the other things that are going to be necessary to help a salesperson to be successful in your company? Number one, you need to have an incredible onboarding process. I always say, the first 30 days will make or break someone's employment in your organization. And most people, if you spend a really intense 30 days onboarding them, you're going to know at the end of 30 days instead of 6 months whether or not they're the right person for the job. So putting together a 30-day boot camp where they're shadowing sales calls, they're shadowing DMs, they're watching your live streams, they're practicing pivoting into the consult, they're practicing how to deliver a qualifying call, they're running the drills over and over and over again with support, with feedback, and with coaching is absolutely essential. Now, let's be honest. I know after doing this for over a decade and helping build extremely successful organizations that this is one of the things that separates the best from all the rest. Most people want to have a winning sales team. They want to have the result of a winning sales team, but they're not in fact willing to do what it takes to build a winning sales team. And I'm here to tell you that it's almost impossible, and I've never seen it done well, where this was outsourced. I've seen so many organizations where they're like, I'm going to hire an outsourced sales team. I'm going to hire an outsourced management company. I'm going to hire someone to come in and train our sales team. And I have never seen it work. Now, that doesn't mean not investing in outside organizations for sales training. We do this all the time. We invest in copywriting for our leads in the agency. We invest in marketing courses. We invest in Facebook courses. We invest in all different types of trainings for our team all the time. And it works. But what we don't do is abdicate the responsibility of hiring, training, and coaching and onboarding to outside of our organization because it won't work. It has to come from within. No one knows your culture, your offer, your avatar, your process, and your delivery system like you do. Okay. So having that 30-day onboarding bootcamp is essential, and making sure that it works through all the steps that we cover in Bigger Than You. Going to link a copy to the book down below. If you haven't read it, you absolutely need to. But coaching, training, creating structured accountability, all those things you want to make sure are in place. You want to make sure that you are helping them to pace on the daily with their outbound metrics, right? And this includes asks for consults, asks for connect calls, asks for actually making an offer. Right? In most organizations, that's just simply not happening. And so, people will say, we're working so hard to try and get sales. And yet those basic essentials actually aren't happening on a daily basis. So there's no way that the sales numbers are going to match. Right? So making sure that there's actual structure and pacing around the metrics is going to be huge, and that there is a team environment that is conducive to coaching and holding this person accountable, but also giving them the feedback that's necessary to really get good at sharing your offer to the same level that someone else that's been with your company for years would be able to do. The third most important thing is making sure that they actually experience your offer and are really upfront and interactive with client results. We have found that our strongest closers have always been people that actually worked on our client services and client transformation team. The people that have the easiest time closing are the people that have seen up close and personal firsthand the results that our clients get. And that's not surprising, right? Of course, they're going to have more passion, more conviction, and more certainty because they've seen it with their own two eyes. And so making sure that when you are onboarding a sales rep, that a big part of their training is actually understanding your program delivery is going to accelerate their progress times 1,000. And I would couple that hand in hand with also making sure that you are really helping them to understand your client avatar testimonials. People that have gotten results in each of the areas that tend to be the biggest objections that you get. So helping them to understand the people that you've helped to get big results in the areas that are going to be the most common and frequent objections that they get, so that they know how to handle those and can give specific examples in detail of those scenarios and how you helped those people to get results in those areas. And another big one is making sure that someone is actually auditing their sales conversations and DMs. This is one of the ones that is probably most disliked by managers and CEOs, and people feel is most tedious, but it's also most telling. You can tell A to Z about someone's capability and conviction and certainty and clarity sharing your offers just by simply listening in to a couple of their call recordings, okay? So if you want to fast track the success of a sales rep on your team, all you have to do is listen to their sales recordings. This is going to give you all the ammo that you need to understand what you need to coach them on and how you need to coach them in order to see their conversion rate come up. It's also going to allow you to determine and decide whether or not this is a coachable person that you're actually going to be able to help to get real results. Because if you coach them multiple times on a specific issue, on a specific way of handling something on calls, and you're simply not seeing improvement, this is not a coachable person. And so there's no need to keep them around for 6 months, 9 months, a year if you are actively watching their calls, giving them specific feedback on things to change, and you're not seeing them incorporate that feedback. If someone's not coachable, chances are they're not going to perform at a high level in your company. Okay. And accountability, right? So many leaders avoid accountability with their team. They don't want to have those crucial conversations. They don't want to have those tough conversations. And the result of that is small issues turn into big issues, and little things turn into big things, and they end up eating the organization, death by 1,000 paper cuts. And then what happens is when it does finally come to a head, it's a huge blow up that doesn't end well for anyone, right? And so you want to make sure that not only are you coaching, you're providing feedback, you're auditing, but you're also really holding people accountable, and you're having those tough conversations, right? And this is why metrics are so important, because if you're not reviewing the metrics, then you don't have an understanding of whether or not their lack of sales is due to activity effectiveness, calls, call effectiveness, closing. You don't know where the breakdown is if you're not operating off of real data and real metrics. Okay, so these are the things I want you to think about as you're hiring your next sales rep, and really understanding that a next level commitment is necessary from you if you want to see next level performance from them. Having built multiple autonomous teams and multiple companies that require less than an hour a week from me each week, I'm here to tell you, you can do this. You can have an autonomous sales team. You can have an autonomous company that grows month over month, that grows year over year, that puts profit in your pocket and doesn't need you. But you have to build a firm foundation. And I've talked about this before, but making sure that you have people that you hire in one company that you're then able to promote and move into other new projects that you want to do, new divisions that you want to create, or even new businesses that you want to build. You can have, be, or do anything you choose, but you have to be willing to lay the bricks of success. I hope today's episode was helpful for you. Make sure you scroll down in the show notes below, grab your copy of Bigger Than You if you haven't already read it. And if you want to get your sales process audited, you want to learn more about building a winning team, you want some consultation on how to scale your sales, you can scroll down below and click to book a call with my team, and we can't wait to meet you.